Welcome to the Top 200 podcast with your host, Herschel Floyd.
Alright, man. What's up, everybody? I know this is delayed, but my voice is jacked up, so I was delayed because I was trying to get my voice right. You know, like doing all that lemon drink and water and stuff like that, and so it just didn't work out, and my voice is still wasted. So if you can bear with me and handle me sounding like I'm going through puberty or something, but yeah, I'm gonna do my best to get this out. I don't want to sound like Lockyer the whole time, like something's stuck in my throat, but this is just how it is, and so I'm gonna try and push through it and just get it all out, because I know that there's like a lot of information that is sort of out there, and that people want to know how, I guess, my thoughts on games and stuff like that, and just how the scene is going in First 15 rugby, and we'll start off with I think we'll start off with, to me, what the best game was of the weekend, and that was the Otago boys and Southland boys game. Like, I am so glad you guys have put on that the live stream for it. Thank you guys so much for showing that game, because it was so good. They should have had like a double header where they had the Super 8 and the Otago Comp Final, because both games were so good, but I think the Otago Southland one was better. Just some of those, just the gameplay in itself. Finn Hurley, like, doing all those drop kicks. He was drop kicking like one that didn't even look like it was pretty much the one to win it, but it didn't look like it was going anywhere. It really didn't. It didn't look like it was. It just looked like he was trying to get a penalty, because they already had the penalty, right? And he was about 20 meters out, maybe 25 meters out, and it was flat. Like, there was no height to his drop kick at all. And even when you're kind of watching it, like, you know how you see like a drop kick in games where you're going to take the lead and someone does a drop kick and then you kind of get excited because you see the ball going up. This ball didn't even go up. Honestly, it didn't. It honestly looked like a really ugly kick that wasn't going to go over, and it didn't even look like it had a chance. And it like kind of went at one level, and it stayed at one level the whole time, and then it went over, and then like everyone just started celebrating. And it was such like a cool ending to that game. But I thought the whole game as a whole was just so entertaining. It really was. It was so entertaining, just the way that everyone was playing. Both sevens were really good with Withy and even Dines was so good too. Like, both of them going at each other. Both number 8s were really good. Zion and Smithy were good. What's his name? Taylor. Jack Taylor was probably... Jack Taylor, to me, I think, was probably the best player on the field. It would be like a toss-up between him and Finn Hurley. But Jack Taylor was so good, and it was just his presence at every breakdown was solid. Every run that he was doing, great supporting as well. Got himself a try. But I thought that it really was. It just had this real good feeling of a final. And Otago boys had it in the beginning in that first half. And I thought they took a lot of control right towards the end until Southland scored. And because I think if Otago scored another try in that first half, or even like another penalty to push that score out a bit, I'm not too sure if Southland would have come back from that, just being down so low. Because it would have been something like if the half finished 17-10, I think it was, instead of 17-5. And if it was like a 20-5 halftime break, I don't think Southland would have come back. But then Southland came back like real strong too. They came back real strong in terms of like being able to they pushed passes that I thought that weren't really on, And it was just great, like a great feel in that team for being able to support each other. And so like you kind of started believing in them as the second half went on, and the way that they started fighting back. And even when Otago scored, you kind of didn't automatically give them the game. And then Southland just started fighting back, and it was so cool. It was such a good game to see that final, and it's sad too, because like I think you kind of wish that it became more of a semis than a Miles Toyota Cup champion. Who's going to be out of Christ College or Nelson, and then the winner of the Otago comp. And it's understandable why they do it, right? I understand that. I understand why, but I kind of feel that like that Southland Otago team and just the way that they played might be better than a Christ College and Nelson College. Just by the way it looked, just by the way that they played, not a lot of mistakes either, which was like one of the cool things to watch about that game, was that they didn't make that many mistakes at all. And even the stuff that they tried, I thought there was like a lot of reason for them to try those things, even though it didn't come off. I thought the right idea was there, which is always like a good thing to see. And like some things that like people don't understand is like sometimes when you make mistakes in games, it's not about the mistake that is the problem. It's not about that it didn't work. It's about your mindset in that moment, the thought in that moment of was that the right move? Sometimes you pick the right move and it just doesn't come off, but at least you had the right move. Like that's like even with myself in terms of when I start evaluating talent and looking at guys within their position. I don't care about the mistakes I don't care about picking the right move to do and it doesn't work. To me, it's like more about the fact that you, in that moment, you chose the right thing to do and you attempted it, opposed to choosing the wrong thing and then sort of being afraid to challenge that side of it. Because I've seen a lot of boys hesitate when they know that is the right move to do, and then they pull back. And that's understandable because they're only young. Boys are only young. They don't have that experience of stuff like that. And so if I know that they're making the right play and it doesn't work, it's fine to me. To me, that's fine. Like one example was A1 and that Hastings and Hamilton boys game, where he carried the ball so well, he made the right runs, he made the right attempts at passing and offloading, and some of them didn't pay off, but the idea and the move was right and what he was doing. And that is the reason why, to me, Hastings was so successful on Saturday, and the way that they were trying to push their way up the field was because of the runs that he was doing and the way that he was carrying the ball. That even though there was like a few passes that didn't come off and there were knock-ons, but that was the right idea. He had the right idea in mind, and the execution just failed somewhere. But that's fine, because what he's thinking is like, this is what I need to do, and he's right. The pass just didn't come off, or there was a hand in the way, or there was a little knock-on, stuff like that. That's fine. All that stuff is fine. If I was a coach, and I bet their coaches were happy too with the way that he played, it's the same thing. They'll be like, they'll be clapping and be like, well, at least he saw that. At least he saw that, because some players don't see those opportunities. And so like those are some of the things that you kind of want to see in players too, is just like, I just want to know if he has the right idea. If he's got the right thing in mind to be able to attempt something like that, because then after that, you can go, I know that he's going to make the right decision in those moments. And so like, in those games, as well as like Otago and Southland boys didn't make that many mistakes. A lot of them played at such a higher level of like rugby IQ in a sense, right? And there's the same thing when you looked at Hamilton boys and Hastings boys too, is that a lot of these players were playing on a different level of IQ in terms of rugby. Taha was making there was a big difference between Taha last week and Taha this week. And there was a lot of times where last week he didn't challenge the line, and this week he did challenge the line. And a lot of times, if you watch Taha play, Taha will break the line, at least 2 or 3 times a game, and it makes it for long, long runs. And this time, they had him in a way sort of locked up, and he still broke the line. But then he had those extra passes that he had out to Austin Anderson, and then what's his name, Peyton. There was space for Peyton on the outside to go one-on-one with someone, and then I hope people realize now you can't go one-on-one with Peyton. Peyton Spencer's not a guy that you want to be one-on-one with. You need an extra guy out there somewhere, because the way that he was breaking the line is that he was just getting one-on-one, squaring somebody up, someone was flat-footed, and then he just made a move and went on the outside. And it was always on the outside. Never really comes in. He always plays that outside line, right? And then if someone like Aki is on that inside, you just don't want that. So, like, for example, if you see that happening and you see Peyton lined up on the outside of a centre or something like that, and there's a winger outside him, make sure that even if he makes that break, you cover that inside guy. Don't go for him. This is where defense comes into it when you're talking about defense, right? Is that you point to the next guy and you say, you got Peyton, I'll take this guy when he comes for the offload. The offload is always coming. Just make sure you make the tackle on him. Or make sure if you can't make the tackle, at least slow him down a bit. Grab on his jersey, even if he's staying standing, just make sure that he doesn't get that pass off. And if the pass comes off, you've already covered him on the support run on the inside. And that's always kind of how you like look at a lot of these players. Even like when you look at Cooper Flanders as well, like Cooper just makes so much meters and short meters and such important meters just because his running style is so man, I don't even really know how to explain it, because he kind of plays like a tight guy running game. Like he'll eat up like the defense to be right there, and instead of a guy that makes no meters or 1 or 2 meters, he makes 5 to 7 meters just off leg drive alone. And it's about his balance in his running. It's about his body position, and then the fact that he just keeps driving forward. And instead of tacklers trying to put him to the ground, a lot of them try to get to the ball, where he's just going to eat up a lot of those meters. A guy like Cooper is like, no, you don't try and rip the ball off him or anything like that, because he's one of those ball security guys. He's not going to give you something easy like that. So you might as well just stop the run. Put all your weight down on top of him, just push him to the ground. Don't let him get an extra 3 meters, because that's another 3 steps back for your defense going backwards, for that offense coming forward and already getting that head start. So guys like Cooper Flanders and that, like Cooper's like that. Taylor Cahill's like that too. Is that like you see Taylor a lot? It's like sometimes he'll drop his hand to the ground and just push himself, get his balance back. Tane Colossi is kind of like that from Rotorua Boys. Junior from Wesley's kind of like that. Leon from Rathgill's kind of like that. Even what's his name from so many names from Nelson College is kind of that same way. Is that they have this leg drive that's low to the ground, a lot of balance within the height in which they're running, and a lot of times it's more effective if you just drop down on top of them. Just put all your weight on top of them, put it to them. Don't try and hold them up, don't try and lift them up, don't try and drive through them, don't try and wrap up the ball or anything like that. Because like worst case scenario is that you're going to wrap yourself around the ball, and then when he falls, you're going to get called for killing the ball, right? So that's kind of the scenario or situation that you don't want to be in with guys that run that way. And there's a few of those guys around that you don't want to be like that. I mean, if you look at guys like Shay Clark from King's College, is that he runs up high. He has this great awareness for what's around him. And to me, it's like his confidence of not caring who's around him. He just cares about who he's passing to. So to me, in his mind, he's just like, well, I don't care who you have on your team. You can try and hit me as much as you want. I'm just looking for my pass. Meaning that he's not scared of anyone that's around him. He's like, he's not scared of getting hit. I'll just try and make my pass. What's his name? Xavier's kind of like that from Botany Downs. It's the same kind of mentality. Tama Whare Orere is kind of similar like that from Rotorua Boys, and even Shea Portuck is kind of like that too from New Plymouth. Is that these guys are not scared of getting hit or getting hit with the ball or taking big shots, is because most of the time they'll get to take a big shot, either roll out of it, jump back on their feet and just keep going, or they'll just absorb the hit and then they're just kind of looking around for a pass and they don't care who's grabbing onto them. You know, Toby Moreland is probably another guy like that from Silverstream who's kind of like that. Even Myers like that from Scots College. Like, all of these guys are just strong, upright runners, but at the same time, they just don't care who's trying to hit them. They just want to get that offload out there. And so, like, those are, you know, trying to, when you, I guess when you're like coming up against guys like that in games, and when you see players like that, you're like, well, I know that in that instinct where I've got him, especially when you're out there on the field, and then your defensive check is like, well, he's mine. It's like, he's not going to care that I hit him, but let's try and take away some of those options. How about I just try and either wrap his hand up, pull him back at the same time, something like that. But, you know, don't think that you by yourself is just going to stop what he's going to do, because players like that, like Shea and Tama and Shea Portugal, like those kind of guys, they just don't really care what you're doing. You know, what's his name? Gus Brown and Max Ratcliffe are like that. Even Gala Malacia is kind of like that too. Like in Napier Boys, is that they're just strong. They're just strong guys that stay on their feet. You know, it's just those kind of guys. Going back to some of these games, like I was mentioning Shea. I was mentioning Shea because that King's College, to me, King's College hasn't been playing great for a few weeks now. Even though they've stayed close to Kelston, or they've won some of their games, to me they haven't been playing as good as like they should be, and as good as I think that they know that they should be playing. Even against like was it St. Peter's as well? Is that, to me, they didn't put up a good front against St. Peter's. Like I thought they can play, because I know I talk about their big three and sort of, you know, Chicago, Francis and Shea, but they do have like good guys around them. They rely on those three, and that's I don't think that's like a secret or anything. But those guys like Seb and Brad and what's his name, Ali, and even what's his name, Trey and Buddha, like all those guys, they all add to this. You know, Yosefas are like another one. Like, they all add to this. So it's like, it's not about the fact that it's just those three and nobody else. Those three are just the ones that they rely on a lot. They're the ones that plays are sort of based around. And so they should. And so they should, because they're such huge, talented guys. But against Mags, I think that they showed a lot about how good these guys were. Chicago was awesome against Mags. And before I go on, Tama Anderson, I hope you're okay. I hope you heal up well and it's not that bad. And you know, that injury just looked painful, and I can't watch injuries. I'm one of those guys, man. I get real squeamish and flipping. Whenever I know someone gets hurt or they try and show a replay or something, I just close my eyes or turn away, or you know, try and fast forward or something like that. And that was one of those injuries where you saw him, you know, go back and you was like, oh, well, I'm not watching that again. I'll just let it play through because I don't want to see what happened. But look, really bad. Tom, I hope you get well soon, and that it's not that bad and that gets taken care of. And remember, recovery is about actually recovering, not pushing through it and not coming out 80% out of a bad injury. You want to come out 100% in a bad injury, and any old fellow that's limping around right now is going to tell you that's 100% right. Because now, guys like myself who think they're tough guys and just go, no, I can play on this 80% knee, that 80% knee turns really bad, and that 80% shoulder turns really bad, and you just don't actually recover. So, take your time, to recover properly. Don't lie to your physios. Don't lie to your coaches and say, no, I can play because you want to play. Trust me, you've got a lot of time to prove yourself, and you're such a good player as well that you'll be fine. Just make sure you recover 100% and don't lie to those guys and say you're all right to play when you know that it's like, oh, I'm a bit iffy. Because trust me, once someone comes for that side and you get a bit shy about it, they're going to know 100% that you're not quite ready to get out there. And it's not also just about a physical recovery, it's about a mental recovery too, which is probably a lot more important than the actual physical side of it, because there's a lot of guys. I remember one time when I hurt my shoulder, and my left shoulder was always pretty bad from like under 14s, and even when I said it healed and I was going physio and stuff like that, whenever tackles used to come on my left side, I would just jersey grab them and just ragdoll them, because I knew I couldn't take bigger hits on my left side. Then I could take it, not that I do big hits, but then I could take it on my right side. Right side I was confident as. I was like, yeah, come to the shoulder, and then I'll be okay with it. Even with American football was the same. When I had the pad gave me a little bit more like, yeah, it's all right. But in rugby it was a bit different, in league it was a bit different. I was like, oh, I don't know, I'll just collar them, pull on their collar, their jersey, pull them down, wrap the ball up, stuff like that. I'll just do things differently. So the mindset is also real important that way. But back to the Kings. The Kings game against Mags was just too one-sided. It was too one-sided, but it was kind of like in their heads. It was like in Mags' heads about who they were playing and how well they've been playing. I feel like it got to them a little bit. Now, even though it sucks, right? Like that they lost this way, I feel like it may be a good reality check for them, because they're already sold on this. They've already got their spot in the top 4. They're going to end up playing Kelston, and it's not so much getting a loss is great, but getting a loss provides more experience and wisdom about what you're going into. Because they're going to face the number 1 team in the country in Kelston, and they're going to need as much confidence and as much experience and as much learning as possible to be able to go into a game like this and be like, this is what we need to do, because we know that we can do it like this, and this is how we need to keep to our game. This is how we've been doing it all year. This is how we need to stay confident and do the things that we need to do, and we just need to go out there and play our game. This King's College one kind of wasn't really like that. Now, it sucks too that they've lost Tama, and hopefully it's not for long, but I haven't really asked the coaches yet, or talked to anyone from the school yet. So it does put a dampen on what they're trying to do this year, but they've got a young team, and a lot of them are going to be back next year. So maybe this is just a great learning position for those boys to feel what it feels like to be in a top 4 situation. And next year is going to be coming. Next year will come, and they'll be fine. But that game was a hard one to watch. It was really hard. And my dad being an old Mags boy, I kind of have like a bit of a soft spot for them, and so watching that was a bit hard. It's one of those kind of trying to, I guess, skip through the bad stuff, but I kind of have to watch all the game anyway. Scots College in town and St. Pat's town. I got to be honest, man. Like, St. Pat's had that game in the first half. The score was only 17-10 in the first half, but I thought they had them mentally. I thought St. Pat's had them in a position where they could have just kept going. I thought they had all the momentum. They had all... they played very well in the forwards. I really liked them in the forwards. I thought that everything that they were attempting or that they were doing was right. Siale Lawaki was doing everything. Cam Burgess was great. Collins was good too. Like Jeremiah Collins was really good. David Johnson was good. And they were all just playing so well. And even when Scots went on these little spurts, I thought that St. Pat's recovered really well. And they did everything to get back. And I just thought they had control of it. Then the second half came around, and it just took one incident, and then Scots just blew up, and I felt Town slip away and just keep slipping, and then they just let it go. They just let it go, and kind of hard to watch, and I always feel it because I look at all the boys, and I think, yeah, you guys have got this. And then Scott just went on this really good run of great speed and accuracy. Yeti Campbell was just too much. His kicking game was just on point all game. And because he's so, it's funny too, because he's kind of like him and Francis are the same, where Francis from Kings is there. They're both huge kids. And that's all you kind of see, because visually you're just like, man, he's going to run through everybody. He's so fast, quick, and all that kind of stuff. But then we always forget, it's like their kicking games are massive and huge and accurate and well thought out. And every decision is just like spot on. They got right decision, right time, really quickly. They're both very fast thinkers. And so seeing Yeti take over that game, everybody else around them just started moving the same, and Moody Stewart getting the ball out was really good. When Sione Latu came on, him and Maya got together again. The front row was great. The loose trio was really good as always, with Tada and Aiden and oh my gosh, there's too many names. There's heaps of yous. But they just ran as a whole team. Everyone was good. What's his name? Ezra from out in the centres. Everyone was just running. The team was actually just as one team. They were all just pretty much one team, all on the same page, and everything just started running through. And it was just awesome to watch the way that they all came together, and it really did pay off. It really did. It was. Obviously, all credit to them, and sort of holding St. Pat's Town out for the whole second half. It was a credit to their defense, and they're on the right track, and so they still look the strongest. The Scots still look the strongest, even after that good game that Silverstream had against Wellington, which was probably the third best game of the week, because that one was right up there too. And they only had the second half online. If someone has a link to the whole game, I'd love to watch the whole first half and second half together. But online they only had the second half on there. But yeah, it was cool to see the Wellington. And I kind of guess this is where you look. I guess you just look past the season. When you're in Wellington competition, you just wait for the top four, and then just see who's there, and you're just like, oh yeah, cool, that's great. Because some of those games, and I'm not trying to be a dick about anything, but some of those games can be pretty predictable on who's going to win. It's just about the great prediction is like, well, how much is kind of the prediction. What team is going to show up? Is the 50-point team going to show up, or is like, are they going to keep it close within 15? That's kind of like some of the questions that I ask myself sometimes. And so, it's just one of those kind of things. I have not seen any of those games from the South Island. There were no links to it. So, I apart from just Christ winning over St. Bede's is not really a surprise. I think the Miles Toyota Championship was so close that there's not really a surprise. Like, with St. Bede's losing to Christ, it's like, yeah, it's not a surprise. It's like, yeah, that could have happened. Any team that would have won, I'd be like, yeah, I can see it. I can see why they would have won. Nelson, even Nelson being Timaru, was the same thing. It's just like, yeah, I can see that. And even if Timaru won, I would have said the same thing. But like, yeah, because they're all pretty similar to each other as well. I think the most disappointing thing was St. Thomas losing to Marlborough Boys, 22-10 was like that's just not the same St. Thomas. But then when I looked at their roster, it was really different. There was quite a lot different about it. So in terms of rosters, I was like, yeah, I can understand. But you just expect, I don't know what the reason was for those players playing out of position or those players not playing the game. I don't know if they're injured or not. I haven't got any inside information on that. But those players that were missing is a big difference, a massive difference in the way that this team is running. So I guess good on Marlborough Boys for going through, and then they get to play Christchurch Boys in their play semi-finals, and then so does Rangiora and Shirley get to play too for that bowl final. And then obviously Nelson and Christ College get to play again. And the good thing about that Nelson and Christ College is that they were both finals in that quad, and it came down to a kick at the end. And so hopefully they show this on TV, because hopefully this becomes another big time game that comes down right to the end. And I guess it's just another great final. I mean, the CNI one was probably the only final that was kind of one-sided, and Whanganui held on for as long as they could, but it was just one of those things that we kind of saw it the week before. We kind of saw how St. Paul's were and how injured Whanganui were, and St. Paul's were just too good. They were just too good, and everyone was playing great. Malachi and Anunu and Thomas and Jaden is always Jaden's such a good player. Like all these guys in there, they've just been so consistent throughout the whole year. And their bad game came against St. Peter's, and I kind of think that St. Paul's would have wanted St. Peter's just to get some revenge back, on that one game that they had, and so that they lost. And Whanganui just did their thing. St. Peter's was the same. St. Peter's and St. John's, in that final, in their third and fourth place, with St. Peter's School winning. But it's funny, and it is going to sound biased because I'm from here. I've spent most of my time here, and I'm from Auckland, but most of my time has been spent in the Waikato, and so I'm a Waikato, I'm a Mulu boy, I'm a Chief boy, hard out. But just between the four teams of St. John's, St. Peter's, St. Paul's, and Hamilton Boys, I don't think any four schools collecting would beat those four teams together. I don't even care if you get the four Auckland teams together. I don't think, for the best Auckland teams, I don't think any four teams put together would beat those four teams. They're just so much. There's so much talent in there, and a lot of them is a lot of young talent too. A lot of these boys can come back. A lot of these boys some of these year 13s have only just turned 17, and so they have that option to come back too, because they only just turned 17. And so I don't know what they're doing here in Hamilton, or Hamilton, Cambridge, whatever you want to say about it. It's just like it just really seems like they're getting it. They've just got it this year, and next year is going to be quite similar as well, because a lot of this talent will still be around. But this year's just been so great for Hamilton teams, and St. Peter's success going all the way through. Not even losing a game until just last week has been great, and they've had really good preseason games too. Like the Kia 2 camp that's over here at St. Paul's at the beginning of the year, that is one that all you rugby directors around the country, if you want to go to a really good preseason camp, just come to this one over here, where the other teams are already there, and some of the best teams around the country, and you get to train with pro coaches, you get to train with other schools, have scenarios against other players, and boys get to see each other who are all on, the top 200 rankings as well. You get to talk with other coaches and go through different ideas, and it's a good learning experience, not just for the boys, but for coaches as well. And seeing how other coaches do things and be like, oh yeah, I want to adapt it to mine. Come to the the camp and look into it, because it's such a good thing, and I've seen it over the last the last few years that it's been on, and how successful it is with the teams that have come away, and how a lot of them have grown from it. I think this year Mags would be the one that really, they're the ones that actually really took a lot away from it. Napier Boys the other year was one where they came to the camp, I think lost 2 games here, and then they went on to become they became finals. They were finals in the tournament, and that was after they went to South Africa, then came here for the camp, and then the rest of the year they were just solid. But it's such a massive advantage coming to this camp and just learning from all the facilities and coaches and resources and all the other teams and other all the other players that are here, and the boys get to meet and mingle and stuff like that too, and so it's a pretty cool camp. But we're getting down into this I guess this later end of the season, and I guess all these rep teams are going to be going. I mean, the rankings are changing soon. Have changed. Sorry, I forgot to tell everyone last week. Sometimes I change it and I'm tired and I forget to send out that I've changed it. So if you ever look at the rankings, they've changed again. And that's for players and teams and stuff like that as well, from year 11s to year 13s. I still feel like AJ Faleafanga is still the best player in the country. His game management is just, there's no one better than him at that. He makes great decisions. He's really patient and reserved in the way that he plays the game, and the way that he sees the game is just a lot different to actually a lot of other players that I've seen even over the past. Because a lot of people would just expect him to attack. Because if you look at AJ, he's short, but he's so explosive off the mark, and he's not an easy guy to bring down. The other thing about AJ too is that he's a really good defender. Don't try just run at him just because the first 5 thinking he can't tackle, because he'll put a shoulder on your chest, and he's not an easy guy to run through. Taha's I still think Taha's second. I still have Taha ranked at number 2. Plays the game differently to how AJ does it. A lot more aggressive in terms of the running game, and his running game is to set up other players. His running game is about making sure the defense is committed to where he is, and then he can play off his passing game as well, which is great. And then when you have guys like Austin Anderson and Aki and Spencer Payton, it's great to use guys like that. And then when he needs to kick, then he'll kick. Shay is obviously third. Shay Clark. In the game on Saturday, they tried to run off the back of the scrum, and he took care of that tackle, drove him back a couple of steps, and then picked himself up, and then he just drove through. He blew over 4 guys at one time to clear the ruck, and then they won the ball. And I just thought, man, there were 4 Mags guys standing there over the ball, and he just went through the whole lot, and then you saw the whole lot just fall back. And it's just stuff like that, and I know people kind of get at me because they go, "Wow, he doesn't put his head into dark places and get all the dirty, grimy stuff that people don't want to do." I was like, "Yeah, but that's not his role." I was like, "That's always the line that I have for everybody. It's it's not his role. It's obviously that's not his role, because once again, once the scrum leaves, he does his job, and then when the ball moves, he stays on the side, and then when the ball hopefully comes back, then he's there." So it's obviously not his role to go in and run with the ball and be a ball chaser or like anything like that. It's like he's not there for that kind of stuff. He's there for the turnover and then the mismatch out wide, and then hopefully that Mikel Tuala will probably be the best guy to pass it to because he's the fastest kid in Auckland. But that's pretty much why he's there. I got Cooper Flanders at 4, pretty much for obvious reasons. It's just like what I spoke about in the first part of this. Just as overall, and I still think he's going to be an open side. I still think that they're going to pick him as an open side for New Zealand secondary schools because we've got too many loose forwards. You got too many loose forwards to choose from, and we don't have a standout 7. But I actually think if he was 7, he'll be better than all the 7s that we have. And so he's probably the guy that I'd want there. Taylor Cahill, pretty much for the same reasons. He saves them a lot in the lineouts. He's obviously so physical. People don't run at him anymore. His overall aggression in the rucks and in the maws. He's so athletic and fit and fast. Not a greedy guy with the ball, which is great always to have when you have a big, strong guy like that knows when his limit is to pass the ball and be like, and he just gets it away. Siale Lawaki is number 6 on my list. There's not been a game where that guy runs for a try and it's like over 20 meters. Like he's had some massive runaways this year, and like, and it's funny too because like you see someone who's so huge but so fast at the same time, kind of like Alex Fido. Like Alex Fido in that way where he was just so hard to bring down, and but he was so fast that even when he breaks the line, people can't catch him after that. Alex was kind of like that too. Like the difference between Nella, Taniela Tupou and Alex and Siale is that like Taniela sometimes used to get caught. And I know that if you see the highlights and stuff like that, they obviously show him finishing off tries. But he used to get caught sometimes. Alex and Siale, they don't get caught. Like, they're really, really fast guys. Takashi Young was kind of like that too from King's College, where he used to make breaks and they couldn't catch him. Jared Adams was another one like that too from, not the Silverstream Jared Adams. Jared Adams that plays for Auckland and the Blues, and he's over in Japan playing for the Wolves, I think now. But he used to go to Wesley, and he was like that too, was where he was so explosive and fast that even when he broke the line, you weren't catching him kind of thing. Sam Helling I've got at number 7 as a halfback. Just the most organised guy that there is. Gets the ball out really quick with like a really tidy pass. There's like no shake or wobble in his passes, which is like really important. Like I like passes like that. I like guys that fire the ball out. I like guys that have really good set feet when they've got a great position back foot and then extend themselves through the pass and get the ball out and it's just all flowing. I like guys like that, and to me that's what he brings. Jeremiah Asi is the other one at 8. Whether you have him at fullback, centre, wing, or whatever, just give him the ball, man. Jeremiah Asi, just give him the ball. For St. Peter's, he's just that guy. Like, and even when he doesn't have a great game with the ball, he just has the boys respect him so much that he could be used all game as just a decoy, and you would fall for it because you know that if he gets the ball and you're not in a position to take him, he's going to score a try or set someone up to score a try. And so, like, even just using him as a fake the whole game and he doesn't touch the ball, if you really watch his influence, it's like that, because then two guys will shoot up closer, and then once the ball skips past them, then they have to sort of readjust their speed and that to try and get on the outside to, to try and catch the overlap pass, things like that. That's what Jeremiah Ussie is without the ball. And that's so much respect to pay to a player that sometimes he doesn't even touch the ball. And I've seen games where, like, for a good 20, 25 minutes, he doesn't touch the ball, but he's just running, like that. And everyone just, like, stops for that little split second, and then they have to readjust because you just don't want him touching that ball. You just can't. And put him on the wing, put him at fullback, put him at centre, whatever, I don't care. Put him at halfback. Like, he's just that good. Jericho York is the same one from Rotorua Boys. He's the same thing. I've never seen anyone stop Jericho York this year, and he just has such great attention for the ball. His running style is great. He's so physical but smart at the same time. He can play he can go inside of you. He can go outside. He can, he can play really. He can play a one-on-one, but even when he comes short. And, comes explosive just on, man, he's just one of those guys you just can't stop. And he carries a lot. He kind of carries like a league winger. Like he gets a lot of attempts. And one thing that I can't understand why people do this, stop kicking it to him. How the hell do you guys not know this? Stop kicking it to that guy. So many guys I've seen this year, from start to finish, just kick it to him all the time, and he'll make a break, and you still kick it to him the next time. Keep the ball away from guys like that. I just don't understand. Tony Tuff is the other one. He's in. So I've got two guys. I've got two teams at the same place. So like in the top 10. So, I got AJ Faleafanga and what's his name, Jeremiah Ussie from St. Peter's. Both from St. Peter's, and then Sam Howling and also Tony Tuffer from Kelston Boys in my top 10, and then Taha and Taylor from Hamilton Boys. So there's three sets of teams. They have two in the top 10, and Tony Tuffer is the last one. But the most impressive thing about Tony is that Tony has he did all the off-season work, got into mean shape, and he knows how to scrum now. I wasn't too confident. I knew that he was a beast when he ran the ball. That was never my gripe about Tony and the way he was last year, and his selections even last year. That, to me, was surprising. But him coming back, learning how to scrum, and scrum really well. And remember, like, this is like... scrumming in first 15 is really technical sometimes. You get there's some guys that just use brute force and strength, and there's other guys that will just beat you technically. They may not even be stronger than you, but their body position will be better, their back will be better, their drive through will be better, their footwork is going to be better, their shoulder length will be better, the width of their chest pushed out, the angle which they come in is always going to be better. And sometimes you get these big fellas that are the same size as, same height as, not same size because I'm too big, but the same height as me, these 6'5", 6'4" props that think, I'm going to out-scrum this guy, and then they get eaten up. Conrad Newland is a great example from Whanganui Collegiate. So small, short guy, but he just eats guys up in scrums. So good at scrumming. And he's one of those kind of guys. Tony Tuffer came back this year, and he just showed everyone that he could scrum, and he was an easy beat on the scrum last year. If you could match him strength wise or grunt wise, you'll beat him. You'll beat him by by the 30th minute that came when he's already a little bit tired and stuff because he wasn't that in shape last year. He thought you could rest. Like, league is different. You can rest in the scrum and leagues, not in rugby, especially for props and that. Your accountability to you winning your own ball is massive. So Tony this year is such a good scrummager now and really reliable in the scrum that I think that it's, everything for him is paying off. And, if I was one of these franchises, I'd be chasing him too. I'll try and get him away from Auckland, offer him university scholarships, offer him as much money as you can, put him away from there, because he's going to be a really good player when he picks it up, and he's going to be. And the thing is that, like, he looks good now, but once he gets into club rugby, into senior club rugby, and then he learns to scrum against men that have been doing it for like the past 10 years, because he's going to come up against guys that are 29 and that are 31 and 32, guys that have been propping forever. And then he's going to feel that what man strength feels like, and he's going to go, oh, okay. Once he learns that in club rugby, he's going to be such a hard dude to stop. He's going to be such a big problem for people, and there's a lot that goes. There's a lot that I can see happen for Tony, in the future, and just the way that he is. And I already know that, for most part, people are just like, well, does he work hard? Just look at Tony from this year and last year. Oh, 100% he works hard. Look at what he looks like now to what he looked like last year. And he did so good in that off season to when I saw him at Kelston when Kelston played Hastings boys in the preseason. I looked over and I saw him on the sideline saying, damn, this dude is flipping in shape. In shape. Then I saw him play this guy's fit too. Strong, still a beast, still fit, fast, a little bit quick off the mark. And then I saw him scrum and I thought, this guy's the real deal. Things like that. And I'm happy for guys like that. I'm happy for guys like Tony. Gala Malacia is number 8 at number 8 for Napier boys. He's number 11 on the rankings right now, and Gala's. I think this is the thing that number 8s hate to hear, but I have a feeling Gala might be a really good prop next year, and he's going to do something that Ollie Norris had to do at St. Peter's. Is that when Ollie Norris was at St. Peter's, he had to change from number 8 into prop, and he ate it a few times when it came to propping at St. Peter's when he first started. But look at him now; he plays for the Chiefs, and he's such a good player for the Chiefs. And Gala's kind of the same thing. I think Gala's going to be a really good prop if he switches up, and I think. I'm guessing someone's going to tell him, because if that was me, I would say switch over too. I would tell him to switch over, and transitioning it from a guy that like him, who runs so well, who carries so well, who's such a strong guy, to take those same aspects that he uses as number 8 and puts it into a prop position. You have an extra ball runner who eats up a lot of meters and is so agile and mobile as well. It just makes it unfair for whatever team he's on. But he's like one of those kind of guys that I think that once he gets into senior club next year, he might be, unless he loses flipping 15 kgs or whatever. He's a great size right now for a senior prop in club rugby. Torian Barnes had a few injuries this year, and I feel sorry for him too, but he's come out really good. Number 12 on the list, he already made his New Zealand Barbarians debut and New Zealand Secondary School debut last year. Kind of a low year for their team, but the games that I saw him play, I saw him in 5 games this year, and he's just been so good. It's hard to look past him. He sits at number 12. Number 13 is Dawson Smith. Dawson, ever since year 10 for St. Peter's, he's just such a smart player. And then to me with him is like, what do you want to play him as? Is like first 5 or second 5, because to me he can do both. To me you can just kind of put him anywhere, and he will always excel. And like most of the time, he's like the smartest guy on the field. Like every time he plays, and his cutout passes are accurate as it's the speed in which he plays. And the thing is that he's not afraid. He's not afraid to take on the line. He's not afraid to take contact or anything like that. And so it's always great to see like a player like him when they play the game. Gage Jackson from Auckland Grammar. He's another guy at number 8 that is, and this is that loose trio argument, right? And then I got to pull Malachi, Rappling Alec in it too, because he's part of that. He's part of that argument. So. My opinion for loose trios and guys that I think will be there is going to be Shay Clark if they don't move him to lock, which I think him and Taylor Cahill at lock would be just enormous. Those two guys. But it'll be Shea Clark, Cooper Flanders, Gala Malacia, Torian Barnes, Gage Jackson, and I'll say it with the school names. Okay, so Shea Clark from King's College, Cooper Flanders from Hastings Boys, Gala Malacia from Napier Boys, Torian Barnes from St Andrews College, Gage Jackson from Auckland Grammar, Malachi Rampling Alec from St Paul's Collegiate, and the other one is Samisi Tupo Tailoa from Otago Boys, and then the last one would be Sam Morgan from St. Pat's Silverstream will be the other one. And there's kind of like an argument because like even that's kind of not clear, but these are the ones that I would look at, because you still got Netani Bale Somosomo from Nelson College, who's the big Fijian blindside, and then the other one is Tino Savea, who's the number 8 open side for Lindisfarne College, who's another guy that I really like, and then Max Ratcliffe will probably be the year 12 that I put in there too, from Napier Boys High School. Netani from Nelson, I don't know if he'll be eligible. I don't know if Tino Savea would be eligible, because Tino is from New Caledonia or Vanuatu, I think it's New Caledonia, something like that. And then Natania being from Fiji, and then Max Ratcliffe will be the other one, being year 12, which I know that they always pick a few year 12s in there, but he would probably be one of the ones that I would look at. But then Sam Morgan would be the other one that's pretty important, and that you might not want to leave out either. You know, so like those are kind of the arguments, because I mean, you could easily look at centre Lawaki from Kelston Boys and number 8 and see what you want to do with him too, because even he has a shot and has sort of an argument of why he should be there. And then Kaiho Pasikala is probably the other one that would probably be like, well, I should be there too. And so like these are all the kind of boys these are the few boys that I think there would be a great contention. But then it's like, who do you pick, and how do you decide who or where they go? For example, like I said before, Shea Clark from Kings could be a lock. Gage Jackson could also be a lock. Now, if you had those two at locks with Taylor Cahill, then you would have Shea Clark from Kings, Taylor Cahill from Hamilton Boys, you'll have Gage Jackson from Auckland Grammar, then it would be like Tommy Hamilton from what's his name? Oh, from Lincoln High School, Selwyn Combined down in Christchurch. The other one you would probably want to look at is what's his name? Andrew Smith from St. Peter's, Cambridge. And then the other ones will be Peter Tikahu from New Plymouth Boys. Would be another lock that you should probably have in that discussion as well. And there'll be someone else I'm leaving out. Maya. Obviously, Maya would be the other one. And then sort of like on the outskirts of that, you still want to have guys like Matthew Monaghan, who I think is really, really good from King's College as well. He's another one that I like a lot at lock. I mean, if you want to push someone like AJ Malili Malo Lawano in there from Fielding High School, if you want to push him into lock, where he's more of a blind side, but I mean, you could do it. I mean, there's not anything saying that you couldn't do it, but I should probably just make this one video about who I think are making New Zealand secondary schools and stuff. But those are kind of like the mindsets that I think all these selectors are going to look through, and then that's where the selectors are going to have to actually make a decision on what they. It's about what the head coach wants, what he's looking for, what he describes, and like his description of what he wants them to be like and play, and then who the position selector thinks fits those characteristics and attributes and measurements, and then goes to the head coach. These are the guys that I think fits what you want, and it's this. So that's how it works. And so remember, my rankings is just what I've been doing since I've followed a lot of these kids from year 11. All right, so I see them differently to what other people see them. These are just my opinions from them, from what I've seen them grow from year 11 to year 12 to year 13, and I see the growth in what kids do. Position selectors see what they just see on the tape that is given to them. So they do look through a different lens from how I look at them, if you understand what I mean. And so however they select it, however process they take to do it, that's just how it is. But we're looking for some really good games next week. Watch out for the North Harbour ones too, because there's going to be some good ones. With Westlake losing again to Rosmini is so frustrating to me, and how that happens. But that competition is so close as well. You would think Westlake would be the final or the favourites, but they're not. You would think that Manureo will probably be the favourites, but they're not. I really actually don't know who the favourites is, because Takapuna beat Massey, and Massey should have been one, and then Whanganui just beat Rangitoto, which I heard was a really, really good game, 19-7, and Rangitoto really went at him. And then you got someone like Pukekohe High School, who's just dominating in a competition that they shouldn't even be in, because they're just too good for that. But they're the other ones that you should probably look at. And we're getting down to regions having their finals to see who's going into the top 4 in co-ed and to the boys nationals. And so it's going to be pretty interesting, pretty exciting. I love this time of the season. Remember, the season's almost up for schools, and then we're going to go into reps and into sevens, and it's going to be pretty mean. I've got heaps more to say, but I think that's the most interesting that you'll probably ever get out of me from this point on, because everything else is just my ramblings of how I see sports and stuff like that. But that's it. See you guys next week. I might do another video depending on what I want to talk about, but I might do some more videos before my even Monday morning. Sorry this is so late. My voice is wasted. Like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Special Throne. Peace.